presented the 2019 budget estimates of 8.83 trillion naira before a joint session of the National Assembly. And what is of concern to economic analysts is the oil benchmark, our oil price benchmark of $60 per barrel, and the projections of 2.3 million barrels per day of production at this time. Nigeria joins OPEC cartel in its production quota agreement, with production now cut down to 1.68 million barrels per day and continuous decline in the prices of crude oil at the global market. How realizable is government's target? Well, to discuss this and put this, make more sense of it and other economic issues, I have with me in the studio right now with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and that's Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Glad to have you join us this time. And Merry Christmas to you.
I wish you the same.
Yes. Well, Christmas, the rice and the chicken. Let's do the business part of it here. Yeah, you know, well, in straight terms, crude oil benchmark. We're looking at 60. As of today, we're doing about $54 per barrel, I think. And now it's even pegged at 1.6 million barrels per day. And we're looking at 2.3 in our budget. What do you make of all of these figures?
Yeah. So I think the figures are not adding up. And I have my concerns, which I think it goes beyond the oil price benchmark. So if you think about it, and you're right, when OPEC had their cut last year, Nigeria was exempted from the cut because we were just recovering from recession. But now we don't have that exemption anymore. So for the first half of next year, it's expected our production will be around 1.7 million, now 1.68 million barrels per day. So we have put in the budget 2.3 million. That's one issue. On the other hand, we budgeted that the benchmark price will be $60 per barrel. It's currently under 55 per barrel. But even at that, if you look at 2018 and you consider the actual price of crude oil per barrel for the first 9 months of the year is $74. At $74, we produce 1.95 million barrels per day average for 9 months. And the federal government had only made 1.5 trillion naira from oil revenue. Now, which means about 20% reduction in production volume, but about 40% increase in the price compared to 51 that we had in the budget for 2018. Yet, we are planning to sell at 60 and produce 2.3, and we are planning to raise 3 trillion. It doesn't add up. So I think that beyond the price of crude oil per barrel, there are other assumptions that Nigeria needs to look at, and they need to make them public. What is the cost of production that we have assumed in the model? Because that would then determine how much government will get from their own take, how much petroleum profit tax the oil companies will pay, because cost drives the profit they make, royalty and the rest of it. Having said that, I think that fundamentally we have a revenue challenge in Nigeria, because it's not only the oil revenue that is being under pressure, we also have non-oil revenue, including tax and the other recoveries that government has planned to be able to raise. Overall, it's not looking very promising.
Now, when we talk about revenue challenge and we have a non-oil sector that's yet to be properly harnessed, diversification, we don't know how far we've gone. Yes, a lot is being done, but we still yet to start seeing the figures changing. You know, what's happening to tax policy? We're talking about expanding the base. What is really happening? How far have we gone? 6% tax to GDP seems to be very low, looking at developed countries like Nigeria, or developing countries like Nigeria.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, unfortunately, tax is not like a tap that you just turn it on and the water will start coming out. It takes a lot of investments. It takes a lot of planning. It's medium to long term. So once you finish plugging the low-hanging fruit, it's a lot of hard work to get things done. And tax, like I always say, is never a thing in itself that stands alone. It's a consequence of economic activities. So if you want to get more from tax revenue, you have to ensure that you promote, encourage, and drive economic activities, whether by large businesses, whether by small businesses, whether by informal sector, whether informal sector or formal sector. The more business activities you have, the more your capacity to generate revenue. We tend to have at some point in Nigeria, even now, regulations and rules. Take for example the issues we have with MTN, remittances, and I think the It's a self-inflicted pain that could have been avoided. The damage we have done to ourselves in the international community is huge. We have foreign exchange rules that are more effective at preventing legitimate businesses than stopping illicit financial flows. Nobody is asking why do we still have rules in this modern day about capital importation certificate. Does it even make sense? I don't know of any serious country where you have those. So when we're thinking about the budget in Nigeria, there's also too much focus on the numbers and less on the policy directions. And I like your question about the fiscal policy, the tax policy. We have a brilliant policy, but really, a policy is not what the paper on which it's written on. Policy is not what you say you do, it's what you actually do. So government has to be looking at it critically from a fiscal policy point of view, industrialization point of view, macroeconomic policy point of view, trade policy point of view. You look at the capital market, we've lost about 16% this year. It was just before, thank God for Santa Claus.
Santa Claus visited the market.
That we recovered a little bit yesterday. But it's not looking good. So even raise capital for anything tangible, it's difficult with a market that is very shallow.
Indeed. The current 4.04 trillion naira and capital 2.03 trillion. This disparity still continues. Yes, we understand, but many still say we're spending more recurrent.
Yes, indeed. So the budget size itself has gone down a little bit from last year, which is understandable. But then, unfortunately, the recurrent expenditure component has gone up by almost 1 trillion. Now, capital has gone down. So two things. One, now, if your recurrent is going up, it could be an indication of inefficiency because in a way, the only thing that has really been added to that is obvious to everybody is the $1 billion for first subsidy. That comes to about 305 billion naira if you use government exchange rates. There's an issue with minimum wage. We don't know whether that has been budgeted for because the president said, by the way, we're going to set up a committee to determine the impact. Overall, the question is, why are we spending more on recurrent expenditure at a time that we're under revenue pressure? Now, capital expenditure is insignificant in my view, at 2 trillion. But even if we look at 2018, we've only released about 820 billion so far. The finance minister said before the end of the year it will get about 1.2 trillion. But that's a drop in the ocean. If you think about the fact that Nigeria's infrastructure stock as a percentage of GDP is only 35%, developing countries have about 70%. South Africa has 87%. So what that means is, as of today, Nigeria needs to spend about 60 trillion naira to bring its capital infrastructure stock to the level of comparable countries around the world. Now, if we continue to spend the kind of money we spend, it will take us about 50 years to get there. Now, the question is, we don't need to spend money on capital expenditure. What we need to do is to provide the right policy framework and the business environment, and the private sector will provide road, rail, hospitals, housing. That's what they do.
A lot needs to be done about public-private partnerships in this part of the world.
Absolutely.
Well, I was just looking at issues around exchange rate. That's been an issue we had to contend with for some time. But a little bit of stability back to the forex market thanks to the Central Bank of Nigeria that keeps defending the naira. With all of this, how long do you think that this will be sustained?
Yeah.
Are we going to continue with government even pegging it at 305 to $1? Do you see us sustaining this? This Apex Bank, can this sustain this?
Yeah, I have to say that we should give the credit to the government for stabilizing the currency. I think most times Nigerians talk about naira appreciating and they want it to even be 1-to-1 to the US dollar, but I think that is not only unrealistic, it's totally unnecessary. What's important with your foreign exchange rate is stability. Even if it's at 1,000 naira to the dollar and it's stable, then people can plan for their investments and preserve the value of their investment in dollar terms. Now, having said that, 305, even as of today, is unrealistic. We know it's not 305 in the market. It's about 360 if you think about the market price for the investors and exporters window. Now, if you project that your inflation is going to be close to 10%, which I think is also very ambitious, and then you have all this pressure about foreign exchange. Our foreign exchange receipts is mostly from sale of crude oil, from FDI, from FPI, and diaspora remittances. All these things, are under pressure now. Apart from diaspora remittances, everything is coming down. So what that means is it is very unrealistic to expect that the exchange rate of naira to dollar will be 305. I don't think so. Nigerians haven't really paid attention to the fact that exchange rate assumption is even a more important indicator in the budget than the benchmark for the crude oil price. Because the rate of exchange affects everything. It affects how much we pay as fuel subsidy. It affects our import and the price of goods and services locally. It drives the price of inflation. It affects whether your minimum wage that you're conversing for can even take you home. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a miracle for the central bank to sustain the 305 and the intervention they are making. I think a lot of it has to continue before the election. After the election is when we see the true value of the naira.
Indeed, after the election, we
Yes.
really see the true value. The naira is appropriately priced.
Absolutely.
Let's look at inflation, which you touched now. For 18 months, there was this decrease. Well, all of a sudden, we've been started to have some increase 1-2 months now, and also growth. We've been on this called fragile kind of growth for some time, and some people say it's a transition period, that after some time we'll get off it and get steady growth, an all-inclusive growth. How long are we going to get, or when are we going to get there? Do you see us getting a single inflation to this very anytime soon?
I think, if you look at inflation, even though we've had increases in the past 2 months, but very marginal.
Yeah.
I'll say overall, we've done well with inflation. Even the budget, the target for 2018 was to get about 12.4, and we're already at 11.28. So it's going to be, very unusual for you to just consistently have decline in inflation for maybe 40 years. No, we've done it for like 18 months. So I think I'm fine with where we are with inflation. Can we get to a single digit? I'll say yes, but it will be a function of when we get more productive as a country. You need more production, you need more productivity. Labor is asking for more, minimum wage, and we all agree 18,000 per month is wicked, it's ridiculous. But then when you pay more and you don't support that with more productivity, you soon lose the value because inflation will just erode everything. So I would not worry too much about inflation. I would worry a lot about growth. And in fact, I would say maybe we shouldn't focus too much on economic growth. We should think about economic development. Because that is when it's really inclusive and you carry everybody along. Because if you have a few people, a few companies, and a few organizations successful, then you don't spread it across. But when you have real development, that's when you have, our unemployment rate and underemployment is over 40%. That in itself is a crisis point we are getting to. And if you have growth that is not inclusive, it will not address that problem. Our average age for Nigerians is 18 years, which means the vast majority of our population are under 18. So even though in this year, 2018, government has created a little bit more employment than this time last year, but more people have entered the labor force than the employment we have created. So overall, unemployment is going up. And that's going to continue. So next year, it will be more people entering the labor force than this year because we have a very youthful population. So we have to think about development of the economy in a way that everybody will be carried along. The intervention that government is making around, all these interventions around trader money and all of that, they're good, but in terms of scale and impact, not very significant.
So before we go, subsidy regime, we're kind of back to this again. Nothing is happening with regards to our refineries. Everybody's waiting for, in quote, Dangote refinery. How long are we going to continue with this until when?
Yeah. I think thank God for someone like Dangote because I don't see any investor that will invest in that sector when the price is being regulated. But for a Nigerian who is willing to take the risk, I think it's looking at 2020. But between now and 2020, the reality is government, because of political reasons, will continue to subsidize. Maybe they will change their mind after the elections next year. But I think it's a complete waste of resources when you spend close to ₦1 trillion subsidizing fuel that the people who really benefit are not the poorest people in society. Even as today at 145, you travel around Nigeria, including based on reports of the NBS, it is not 145 everywhere. So you find in remote places and villages, it's even more than that.
People are ready to buy.
Diesel and kerosene are already deregulated. Heaven is not falling. So why are we deceiving ourselves, putting pressure on government
Christmas Day, let people enjoy their rice and chicken.
Yes,
I
I hope so.
I want to thank you very much for joining on the show today. It's really good to have you
pleasure.
talking about all of these issues and making more sense.